Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm sure that you guys have all heard those timeless but true cliches about how those who go against the grain are often those who change history, are those who change the way we think and provide the necessary shift in thinking that eventually becomes the standard that we all follow. For me, living on the fringes, going against the grain, living by my own rules, creating my own myth, was a defense mechanism that I developed in early childhood. It was a type of self-preservation. I talk about it in another video. I'll put the link above, so if you feel like watching it, you can. That defense mechanism changed me as a child, and it eventually changed how I would operate in the future. Now it is what drives me. The desire to live as an individual is what inspires me to get up in the morning, to create, to live. For me, I have always felt that there's really no other way to live. I feel that way more now than I did as a kid. It has become an instinct, and I'll get to how important that is in a minute. So the tendencies that I developed as a child always led me in the opposite direction of what everyone else was doing. Once something was repeated, normalized, standardized, it kind of depleted. It lost its potency and its strength to me. I really had no interest in what the mass was doing. But it is notable that there will always be truth at the heart of conformity, a truth that I see as a kind of functionality. It's something foundational. It's a standard that works for the mass, but not for the individual. Society needs to exist with all of its platitudes, its paradigms, its stereotypes for those who need it, and also for those of us on the fringe who need something to rebel against. That is society's only use, really, for the individual. I have never been comfortable in the crowd, in a box, in a category. I've always been that square block that wouldn't fit into the circular hole. And now that I've gotten older and my understanding of individuality, my individuality has kind of matured. I see society as a cautionary tale. Looking at the masses, I don't feel pressured to be a part of it, but I feel inspired to live as differently from them as possible. Living on the fringes is frightening, especially as you get older and you gain more responsibility. Those who love you and support you will start to question you, question your ambition, your intelligence, your drive. That's probably the worst part. That's the hardest part. People that are close to you not accepting you. Parents are disowning their children for their life choices. To survive this, if you are in a highly unfavorable environment, you basically need a time where you completely detach. You need to push away from everyone and figure everything out on your own, without distraction, without contamination of external influences. That is the magic of solitude. And during your voluntary exile, you need to know in your heart, know yourself so damn well. Be so sure of your desire that when you go back out there into society, into the world, that you will be certain that you'll get to your destination. And the only way to be certain, and if you take anything away from this video, anything, the only way to be certain is to know that you would die any other way, that you cannot be sustained in that kind of environment. We'll talk more on that later. When you think of a life of conformity, whatever scenario you have envisioned in your mind, and you feel this kind of horrible, this is how I describe it anyway, it's kind of lukewarm, this dim dampness, this kind of like awful anxiety, like a room, like a living room, dim at noon kind of feeling, if you know what I mean. If you feel that at the thought of conformity, that is the most important epiphany you will ever have. In your mind, you know when you think that way, that scenario would destroy you slowly, that it would just drive you mad, drive you to numbness or offing yourself. That is the only way that I can tell you for sure that you'll make it, that you will find your way to what you truly want. Most people don't know what direction to run in. At least those on the fringes know what to run from. I've often heard people say, let fear guide you. Fear in this conversation is not necessarily about conquering fear, but letting fear be a reminder, an icon, a symbol for the life that you don't want. That feeling that I just spoke about, the one where you envision a life of conformity, that feeling needs to be utter revulsion. It needs to be strong, or you will never find the strength to pursue what you really want. It's really that black and white, end of story. Because the reality of living on the fringes is that almost no one will believe in you, or they'll be very skeptical at the least. Those people are worried about you at the best of times, and at the worst, they are frightened of you, they're disgusted with you. You need to be an individual through and through. You need to be militantly individualistic, selfish at times. Your sanctum is yourself. Now, something worth noting here is that the path to your desires, living on the fringe, is easier for some than others. And you should know what your strong suits are. If you choose to go on this lonely road towards your desire and you're charming or attractive or charismatic, as I have described it in the past, then people will excuse you. They will even worship you. Some have to fight harder. I knew as soon as I hit puberty and became a little prettier, no one really mocked me or said anything about me anymore. Nobody questioned me. They were either quiet or condoned me. Intelligence helps immensely. If you have a leg up and you're smart, you're eloquent, past your peers and fellow citizens, when it comes to intelligence, like I'm talking street smarts, wit, critical thinking, soaking up knowledge like a sponge, then they'll usually leave you alone. Intelligence is often an indication that you have reasoning that surpasses the people who are questioning you. And those people are not going to bother with what they don't understand. They'll simply expect you to know better. Now, going back to beauty really quick, it can help in certain situations, like the one I described before, but it can also be a disadvantage, because when it comes to beauty, it can come off as an excuse for recklessness and self-destruction. So if you're good looking, you better have some good backhanded comments for people who question you. You need wit. You need a backbone. Intelligence helps bar the skeptics from tearing you down when it comes to your physical beauty. So living on the fringe, when it comes to life, like real life, actually walking the road less traveled and not just dressing differently or listening to alternative music, that is so real. That is so real. It's menacing. Living life this way is far more intimidating than just expressing your individuality through aesthetics, appearance, taste. When I was young, I learned to just be at peace with myself. That was the easy part. But as I got older, and when it became time to be a functioning member of society with bills, taxes, health insurance, decent paying job, that's when the eyes came back onto me. Expectations and obligations frightened me. The desire to conform kind of reared its ugly head again, because now my survival was at stake. My credibility as a human being was at stake. You have people asking you, what are you gonna do with your life? What are you gonna do? The Bohemians of the 1800s and 1900s, they lived in absolute squalor, and to the outside world, they looked like they had failed. But they were happy and they were content. And that was all they needed. Their goals, their troubles, their desires were of a different class than those from society. They were satiated with things that left the masses feeling empty. Living as an individual is choosing the life you desire, but it is also welcoming that sacrifice, discipline, hardship, the disapproval of others. So I started asking myself, do I want a job, a decent paying job that pays 40 hours a week, or do I want to float around to find the most time for what I wanted to do and focus on exactly what I wanted without starving? I chose the latter. I prioritized living, the art of living, small moments over stability and reason. And I did that again because there was no choice. It was the only way that I could live. The fear did subsist, but it did not triumph over my desire. Now on that note, let's have a little note on fear. Fear is always going to be there, and I welcome it because it strengthens me. It tests me for weak spots. It questions my potential. I'd rather let fear question me than society. I let guilt measure my satisfaction too, because guilt for me is measured by how well I served my potential on a particular day. If I didn't do enough, it's because I know I can do better. I owe it to myself, no one else. I also believe that envy can drive you. Nietzsche talks about envy, how envy can be a positive force to ward off stagnation. These seemingly negative things to other people are actually the angels at your back, guiding you towards a better life, one that you know you want. No compromises. To conclude, to live on the fringes, to go against the grain, I found that you need to be your own citadel. You need to be sure of what you want. You need to have great strength in who you are. Passivity of the crowd will be your greatest ally, and so is solitude. Having a friend or even a group of like-minded people is fortunate, but not ensured. You need to be your own spokesperson, your own one lone cheerleader. And absolutely, to know that you're sure of the path that you choose, you must know that you will die if you had it any other way. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave comments below, leave your thoughts below, how living on the fringes, if it appeals to you, if you do currently, how it makes you feel, what your journey's been, whatever. I'd like to hear it below. And please don't forget to like and subscribe, share, whatever. Anything helps the algorithm, of course. Check out that video, that other video that I had on, I think it's called How Being a Radical Individual Saved My Self-Esteem, something like that. Check that out too. I talk a lot about individualism and kind of like the precursor to this video. Yeah, check that out, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.